Okay guys, quick test for you all. All it is a wrist extension test, which doesn't sound very sexy, but it's a good way of identifying any weakness or areas that need work, certainly for any of you that want to be looking at doing any handstand work. It's imperative anyone doing handstand work has a wrist that can fully extend to 90 degrees. If we can only get to there, probably not a good idea that we start putting load or our body weight load in a handstand through this joint that doesn't fully extend. So a good test just to see where you are currently is lock your elbows together, lock your wrists together, so we're in this position. Now from here, with no movement in the elbow, bring the hands down and see how far you can get. You want to be aiming for around 90 degrees from the forearm through to the fingers. As I say, if you can only get there, we need to start working on your wrist extension before we start doing certainly any inversion handstand work. So something you can incorporate into a push-up, nice simple push-up, is some wrist extension work, also recruit some shoulder extension work at the same time. But it's going to start engaging these extensors in the forearm, strengthening them to be able to pull our fingers back towards our forearms, which is what we want. Now there's loads of ways of doing it. There's a load of passive stretching I can show you, but it's the active mobility that we want that's going to keep our hand in that position or our wrist in that extended position. This is where we need to build the strength. So we might be able to passively get there, but it's the active strength that we need to be working. So as I say, a great way of doing that is incorporating this into your push-up. So I'll go through the exercise. So all we're going to be doing is a 5-second eccentric, just to start building some tension through the body, which can really help. And then from the bottom position, we're going to lift our hands by squeezing our shoulder blades together, and then without touching the floor, keeping our wrists extended, so you'll feel that contraction through the forearm extensors here and the wrist extensors, keeping them there, not touching the floor. We're going to reach back, squeezing our shoulder blades together, then we're going to bend at the wrist again, without touching the floor, squeeze the shoulder blades as hard as you can. We're going to come back to the start. I'll show you what that looks like. So full plank position, fingers facing forwards. I went through this during my push-up tutorial, so for any reminders you can go and look at that we want to be in this solid plank position. Now in 5 seconds we're going to start to come down towards the floor. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, this is where it gets difficult. So now we squeeze the shoulder blades together, keeping those wrists extended, lift. So we're in this position off the floor. Without touching the floor, without changing your body position, reach backwards without touching, squeeze the shoulder blades together here, bend back at the wrist, feel that contraction through the wrist, don't touch the floor as we come through, back to the side of our chest, push strongly back to the start. I'll go through that again. So it's a 5-second lower. Rest on the floor. Don't do this with your torso. Don't come up here. Keep everything straight. Suck the belly button in. Keep ribs nice and tight and back and down. Lift. Don't touch the floor. Feel that contraction through the wrist. Bend back at the wrist. Come back through. Push up. So even without doing that exercise, we can feel that contraction here just by pulling our fingers back towards our forearm. Feel all this fire up here. So adding that into the push-up routine can really build you some decent push-up strength, but it can also start to work this wrist extension, which can often be neglected. As I say, it's imperative before any handstand work, we have a wrist, elbow and shoulder for that matter, that does what it should do before we start adding load to it. So let's get your wrists in a position where they can extend at 90 degrees all the time, not just passively, actively. So important. Give it a go, let us know how you get on. If you've got any questions, just send me a message and I'll help.